Remember that although we offer solutions to an error you are receiving, our solutions might not perfectly fix your bugs every time. If your errors persist, do not panic. First, try the following steps. Search our other debug videos for additional help. Leave us a comment explaining your problem in complete detail. Search the official Unity sites for more help. And finally, search Google for other possible solutions. Enjoy the video. Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to InfoGamer. This is going to be a very quick debugging tutorial. Now the problem that we're going to be dealing with in this video isn't a runtime or a syntax error, it's more of a logic error. And it actually doesn't deal with any code, it's more of the logic within Unity itself. And this problem deals with not being able to select certain UI objects. Now I already did one debugging video with a problem similar to this, but the problem in that video was that we didn't have an event system game object. The problem in this video deals with a principle called layering and also having multiple types of canvases. Now to demonstrate this problem, I have our Season 1 project open up inside of Unity. And when I was creating my last tutorial on how to create a character selection system, I was running into this problem. And so here you can see that we have our main menu canvas, which is a really big object. This is a canvas that's of type screen space overlay. And then down here I have our shop canvas, which is called a world space canvas. And so I have these two types of canvases, and when I click play, you'll notice that I can cursor over anything that's part of our main menu canvas and it will highlight. I can also click and select those objects. But when I try to select anything that's part of my shop canvas, you'll notice that nothing happens. So I'm trying to use the scroll rect, that is this box over top of all of our spaceships, and I'm trying to drag it to the left, but nothing's happening. Now this wasn't a huge problem for me to debug because I already know about the principle of layering. And so the problem occurs when you have a UI image object that's overlapping on top of the other UI objects that you want to interact with. And so on my main menu canvas object, I have this object which is called border, which is the gray trim that goes around the outside of my game view. This object is an image object that has the same width and height as my canvas. Now an important thing to note is that if the actual image that you're using in your UI image component has any portion of it that's transparent, that transparent part is still interactable with the UI system. And so even though I can see through my border image, my mouse is first still going to interact with this border image before I interact with my world space canvas. But I already knew about this, so I had already turned off the Boolean value of Raycast Target. This Boolean value, if set active, means that you want your mouse to be able to interact with this image object. And since I turned it off, it means that my mouse should be clicking through this border image object. But I still can't interact with any of the objects in my world space canvas, and so I had to start looking at the other objects in my screen space canvas. And the only other object that takes up the full screen of my game view is the panel object that I created out of habit. So this main menu object is what's called a panel, and you can create these by right-clicking, going down to UI, and then selecting panel. And here you can see that my new panel has taken up the full screen of my game view. And this object is of type image, and it has its Raycast target set to true. Now what I had done out of habit is I had created a panel and I renamed it to main menu panel, and then I turned its alpha channel down to 0 so that it's transparent. I then ended up forgetting about this object and continued on with creating the rest of my main menu. And so all I have to do is uncheck my Raycast target option. Now when I click play, you'll see that I can now interact with the world space canvas. Now there's a few key principles that we can learn from this problem. The first principle is what's called layering, and Unity's layering system is based on the order of objects in the hierarchy. And so real quick, I'm going to disable both my main menu panel and my shop canvas. I'm then going to right click on my main menu canvas. I'm going to go down to UI and I'm going to select button. I'm then going to blow this button up so we can see it better. And I'm going to change the color. I'm then going to duplicate this button and change the color to something else. I'm then going to move my second button over and down so that it's overlapping my first button in just one corner. Now you can see that the green button is on top of the red button. I'm also going to rename my buttons. One will be green button and the other will be red button. So as we can see how the red button comes before the green button in the hierarchy, the red button is also behind the green button in our scene. Now you'll notice that when I cursor over the red button changes colors, and as soon as I then cursor over the green button, the red button returns to normal and the green button is then a different color. Now even though my cursor is over top of both the red button and the green button, it's only the green button that has changed color. This is because the Unity UI system uses what's called raycasts for the mouse to interact with the UI system, and that raycast only goes to the first interactable layer and then it stops. It doesn't go through it. Now if I stop our game and I move our green button so that it is above our red button, you'll notice that our red button is now on top of our green button. And so the things that are closer to the top of our hierarchy are the things that are further in the back, and the things that are closer to the bottom of our hierarchy are more forward. Now you might wonder if the order in the hierarchy applies to different canvases that are both screen overlay canvases. And so let's create a new canvas. I'll go to the drop down menu, go to UI, and I'll select canvas. And so here we have another canvas which is lower than our first canvas in the hierarchy. And so now I'm going to select our green button, which is currently behind our red button, and I'm going to drag it on to our second canvas. Here you can see that it looks like it's in front of our red button now, but when I click play, our red button is above our green button. And so that's a little weird, and to explain this, I'm going to select our canvas game objects. So here I have my second canvas, and the option that we want to look at is what's called sort order. Currently this sort order is set to 0. Now let's go to our other canvas, and here you can see that this sort order is also set to 0. And so it looks like both of our canvases have the same sort order, but for some reason the canvas that is closer to the top of our hierarchy is brought forward more. Now I would say that the order in the hierarchy doesn't matter so much when it comes to the canvas objects themselves. It's better to set the sort order if you want a certain canvas to be in front of another canvas. And so now I'm going to scroll down to our second canvas and I'm going to set our sort order to 1. And there you can see that the green button is now brought forward. And so the higher value in the sort order, the more forward it will be. Now these sort orders don't apply to world space canvases, just screen space overlay. So if I select our shop canvas and I enable it, you'll see that there is no sort order, there is sorting layer, and there is order in layer. So let's try to set our order in layer higher than our other sort orders. So I'm going to put it at 2. You can see that our world space canvas is still behind our red and green buttons. You can see that I can select my red and green buttons over my world space canvas object. And the reason why sort order doesn't apply between screen space overlay canvases and world space canvases is because the screen space overlay canvases will always be the first things rendered on top of our game. World space canvases are just like any other objects within our scene. They're part of our 3D space. And so they'll always be rendered behind our screen space overlay canvases. Now the next principle that we learned from this problem is that transparent UI images are still interactable if their Raycast target is set to true, and they will still take priority over objects placed behind them. And so let's select our green button, and I'm going to then turn its color alpha channel down to 0. Now let's click play, and here you can see that I can still select our red button if I'm moving our cursor where the green button is not located, And then as soon as I move it over to where our green button is, you can see that our red button is no longer selected. And so if you have a transparent object, or a portion of your image is transparent, and that image is overlaid on top of other objects that you need to interact with, then it's very important that you uncheck the Raycast Target option. And the final principle that this problem teaches us is to double check our work. And so for me, I thought I had already disabled the Raycast Target on my border image object, but I had forgotten about the panel object that I had created previously. And so it wasn't until I disabled the Raycast Target on this object that I was then able to interact with our world space canvas. Now with that said, there are points in time where you want to have a panel object covering other UI objects that you can't interact with until that panel goes away. For example, if I click play, I can then click on this credits button, which will bring up this panel. And since this panel is visible and is overlaid on top of my world space canvas, I don't want to be able to interact with my world space canvas behind it. Now I'm still able to interact with my world space canvas if I click over here and I drag my scroll rect to the left and right. But if I wanted to fix that, make it so that I couldn't interact with it until I click this close button, then I could create a bigger panel object that is transparent and make it so I can't click behind this panel. But as soon as I click this close button, I can then interact with my world space canvas as much as I want. Alright, so I hope this video helps. If you're ever having trouble interacting with a world space canvas, it might be because you have some transparent image object as part of your screen space overlay canvas. If you found this video to be helpful, make sure that you give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below or join our Discord server. And finally, please subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you can be up to date on all our latest videos. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.